So you're telling me the only result of the no-knock warrant ended in the death of an innocent person, and then without a no-knock warrant, they caught the guy who committed the murder? How are you arguing for no-knock warrants? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So I already knew it wasn't going to take long before the tap dancers came out, the bootlickers came out. I already know Tatum was there like that, but he always does that. And luckily, despite his audience being pretty disgusting, they at least called him on it for, you know, that this was a state overreach. Not to mention, what the state was doing was illegal. There was actually, Minneapolis City had a ban on no-knock warrants, so they're violating that rule, and, you know, it led to an innocent person dying. But it's weird because ABL took a lot of the same bootlicking, like, statements Tatum made, rewrapped them, fed them back, and now they're receptive. And the bizarre part is, I know they have an overlapping audience. And the weirdest part about his whole argument in this, I'm going to show you, is he talks about the necessity for no-knock warrants, but in his own argument shows that they don't work, and all they do is put the citizen's life at risk and the officer's life at risk. And the weirdest part is, a lot of the arguments I'm hearing these are lefty arguments. Like, a lot of the lefty arguments who argue for vax and max mandates, who say, if it just saves a life, we have to do it. Your rights be damned. He's doing the same thing. If a no-knock warrant, if it just saves an officer's life, then 2A, 4A, it can all go away. If it just saves an officer's life. It's the same logic. This is why I'm like, modern conservatism's dead. It died a long time ago. It died in like the 70s. Because the right doesn't conserve anything. They threw out every tradition we were supposed to conserve. They threw all of it out. They don't care anymore. They basically have become state cheerleaders as long as the state, it just depends who they go after. So, no different from the left, which is what I was saying. Anyway, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to jump around a little bit just to skip the parts where he goes over the case, because I already went over the case. And really not much has changed except for his cousin, forgot his first name, Mr. Speed, got arrested. And already interesting right out of the jump in the description. I like how he always says, the social justice world has collectively rallied around the police shooting. Okay, so people like Marge Teray are now SJWs. People like me are now SJWs. People who don't like the police killing people are now the social justice advocates. Okay. All right.
There are quite a few people blaming the police and whatnot, talking about, oh, there shouldn't be any more no-knock warrants. He was an innocent person. He was a bystander. He did.
So far, all true.
Didn't do nothing. That's not really right.
Everything you just said, Red, was actually correct. He was an innocent bystander. He didn't do anything. He didn't break any laws. His name wasn't on the warrant, which is why you shouldn't even have no-knock warrants. Because you don't even know how many innocent people are in the house. But I'm just noting that the premise he already sets up is incorrect.
There are people to blame beyond Amir Locke in this situation.
Yeah, the police. He doesn't get any blame. He didn't do anything.
None of whom are the police. They did not do anything wrong.
He has a USA hat, and he's always wearing a 1776 hat. My guy, you would have been on the side of the British if this was the 1800s. The 1700s, sorry.
At all, and I'll explain. Matter of fact, let's back up a little bit to give you the whole context. So, there was a no-knock warrant signed off by a judge in Hennepin County, which is, of course,
illegally signed off on. They were not supposed to do that. Now, I'm just going to jump in a little bit because it goes over what I've already explained in the last video. So,
couch sleeping with a gun in his hand. Now, why is a gun in your hand while you're sleeping?
Now, if you are an actual conservative or libertarian and you believe in the Bill of Rights, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He legally had that gun. He can do whatever he wants. I said, I don't care if you walk in and he's dry fucking the gun. It doesn't matter. He can have the gun. Okay? God, these are the people that would excuse someone getting arrested for defending themselves in California, but they didn't have everything all completely locked up, separated properly, where it takes 10 minutes to, assemble everything and go, well, California does say this, even though it's a clear violation of the Second Amendment, which is funny, because if you think anyone actually listens to those laws, that is hilarious. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting on a tangent.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. So as soon as the police go in there, they see Amir Locke. He has a gun in his hand, and they're thinking that he's moving for it.
He wasn't moving for it. And how do you know what the police were thinking? You don't know that.
Trying to go reach for it or whatever. It's in his hand.
It was pointed down, and his finger was off the trigger.
Got a no-knock warrant. They know that people here could be very dangerous. So Amir Locke gets shot right there on the scene. He dies. Now,
left out some context, but
people are saying that the police, that they shouldn't have done that because he wasn't even the guy that they were trying to find, which he wasn't. But
exactly, that's why you shouldn't do no-knock warrants. Because one, you put innocent lives at risk, and you put the officers' lives at risk. This is why Breonna Taylor's boyfriend was justified, and the police were in the wrong. And I understand in that case they did knock, but they didn't announce who they were, and they were in plain clothes. I'm like, if you're all for officer safety, you shouldn't be for no-knock warrants. It puts people at higher risk. And if you're actually pro 2A, you should be super opposed to no-knock warrants. Because if you're a big 2A person, you're going, you realize we're busting into someone's house who's armed, right? And they don't know who we are, and they could shoot at us, right? There are other methods of apprehending criminals.
Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. He wasn't even the target. He wasn't the guy. He thought it was some kind of home invasion, and he may have been nervous. He got his gun to protect himself.
He may have been nervous. If you come in screaming with flashlights, yeah, I would be freaking out too. I would be like not knowing where I am. If you woke me out of a dead fucking sleep like that, yeah, I'd be complete. This is again, I'm sure, I don't know if he has a video. I'm sure he probably justified Willie McCoy. If you can justify this, then you think Willie McCoy is justified. Even though that was a significantly worse setup because they wanted him dead.
But see, here's the problem with that. The no-knock warrant was signed off for a reason.
Wrongfully signed off. He keeps leaving that out.
It was not Amir Locke. It was Amir Locke's cousin, 17-year-old Makai Speed, who is alive. It's weird how that works, right? They were able to capture Makai Speed alive. He's in jail right now, but they were not able to capture Amir Locke.
You just argued we should have no-knock warrants and then showed why we shouldn't have no-knock warrants. Wait, hold up. So you're telling me the only result of the no-knock warrant ended in the death of an innocent person, and then without a no-knock warrant, they caught the guy who committed the murder? How are you arguing for no-knock warrants? It doesn't make any fucking sense. You just argued against them. Oh my god, dude. Some of these bootlickers, it's just, even when the state is wrong, they're right.
Maybe because Amir Locke had a gun and may have been getting ready to use it.
He wasn't ready to use it. It was in... He had it pointed down, finger off the trigger. That's not getting ready to use it. You should know this. I'm pretty sure you own a gun, don't you? You should know this.
While Makai Speed was caught when that wasn't going on, but we'll move on. So now, why were they trying to find Makai Speed? What happened? Well,
okay, so here's just gonna go over why they were looking for Makai Speed. Sum it up for time. It was it was like a drug deal. They shot the dude involved in the drug deal, killed a guy, and then was on the run.
Makai Speed allegedly because of that whole thing. So the police were able to kind of track him down. The police because of that whole thing. So the police were able to kind of track him down. The apartment that they raided was where his brother's girlfriend and his brother lived. Makai Speed had a key to that apartment, and
exactly why you shouldn't do that. There was a lot of innocent bystanders in the way that didn't know who was coming in and could be harmed in the process. And now we have an innocent man dead.
If you got family members that you know and you living with them and they out there robbing guys, killing guys, you kind of know what's going on. So
notice he describes that he says Amir Locke knew what was going on. He has no evidence of this. He's just throwing that out there. And two, he's giving the argument of if you associate with somebody like this and the police kill you, even though you did nothing wrong, had no record, everything lawful, well, you know what? You hung out with a bad person. I can't help but notice. Why do we take everybody under a magnifying glass? The right always does this. They only take certain people under a magnifying glass. Even when they've done nothing wrong, they only take certain people under a magnifying glass. Where was all this skepticism with Kyle Rittenhouse? I didn't see you guys put him under a microscope, look into his past like crazy. I didn't see you guys do that. I seem to notice this consistent pattern with who you tend to ascribe motives with no evidence, or tend to try to dig through for any probable cause. Seems to be only a specific group of people.
At a certain point, if you don't want to be caught up in some weird stuff, maybe don't be around them. Maybe why?
How do you know? Again, ascribing motive. We don't know what Amir Locke knew and didn't know, and even so, that's not relevant. But just notice how he's trying to set him up as the villain, and the state, who illegally raided this place, the state is the hero. And I said, this is the clown who wears the 1776 hat. You would have been on the side of the British. This is not a pro-America mentality.
Watch the company that you keep. And I've always known that. I've been told that for a long time. It's like, look, if your friends are out there, that they're thugging and drugging, they're carrying on, they getting involved with stuff, you could go down with them. Let's just say.
Okay. Guilt by association. Now, I'm going to jump over this because he gives examples of guilt by association. However, he gives false equivalencies, like, what if you were in the car when somebody robbed the bank? Or what if you were there when a drug bust happened? You can get arrested, but how you get charged varies per state. But again, he brings these up. None of this is relevant to Amir Locke at all. He's trying to set up Amir Locke as the villain in this story. No evidence, nothing. And again, I just point this out. Whenever a different colored person, where is the same energy and scrutiny? Because I never see it. This is the most clear-cut case of the state unjustly murdering a citizen. And you have these people who still trying to make the citizen the villain. This is why I said, there was this interesting thing. I just want to point this out real quick. It was this interesting thing where it was a school lecture. It was a college lecture, and this professor says, "How many of you, if lived in the 1800s, would have been outspoken against slavery?" And like everyone raises their hand. And then he poses a different question, framed differently. He says, "How many of you right now would speak on a view you have that would get you ostracized from your friends and family, and you would, possibly, you'd be hated by them for saying it?" And like almost nobody raised his hand. And then he said, "None of you would have been against slavery at the time, or so you wouldn't have said anything." And I think that same logic applies here. Because I can't believe this is a guy, again, the guy who puts the 1776 stuff everywhere, but then is constantly defending the authority violating your rights. You know we went to war over this. You would have been the dude defending the Boston Massacre guy. You're not the pro-America, pro-freedom guy. You're the pro-authority guy, and that is anti-American. That's fundamentally anti-American. And this is my problem with what has become of conservatives. They don't conserve anything anymore. They threw everything away. Their main goal seems to be own the libs now. People like this, and it's arguments like this, why I cannot stand the current state of conservatives. Because what happened? Actual conservatism has basically been dying the past 50 years. Because let me pose you a question. What have conservatives actually conserved? What traditions of America have they actually conserved in the last 50 years? Not small government, not the First Amendment, not the Second Amendment, not the Fourth Amendment, not the Eighth Amendment, the 10th Amendment. They gave up on traditional family. They gave up on gender roles. They gave up on marriage. They gave up on their religious identity. They gave up all the traditions. Because their main goal has basically been own the libs at this point.
You're breaking in the crib. What if that was just regular guys that had beef because of Otis Elders people saying, hey man, this little dude killed my homeboy or whatever, he killed my brother, let's go get him.
The difference is, if it was his people who did that, as you would say, they would be arrested for murder. The police are not going to jail for murder. That is the difference. Both are equally wrong, but only one group is getting punished, and I can't help but notice why one group will be punished and the other won't.
So they go to your crib and then they shoot it up and you die. Nobody would have cared because this would have been regular ghetto violence, right? But because of police.
Well, no, because they would have been arrested and gone to jail, most likely. So this is a typical thing the right likes to do. Or you'll bring up police killing American citizens, and what the right likes to do to deflect from what the state is doing is go black on black crime. That is a different topic. I've always, whenever I hit a talking point, I'm happy to discuss that topic once we're done with the state killing people. The thing is, what he's trying to do here is basically deflect. He's not saying, don't look at this, what the state did, look at what black people are doing to each other. Okay? That's not the topic of discussion. That's a deflection from what's actually happening.
Police are trying to capture this person to bring this guy to justice and to get relief for his family, because I mean, who was.
And look what happened, because of the method, that's what we're debating, the method of which it was carried out ended in, you caught a criminal outside of the raid. All the raid ended in was an innocent person's death. So how does this justify no-knock raids? If anything, this does the opposite.
Was this guy Otis Elder? Could have had wife, kids, mom, dad, sister, brother, could have been somebody's uncle, whatever.
Again, this is to make you look away from what the state did, to shift it to black on black. See, he doesn't care about black on black crime. He's trying to protect the state. That's why I'm not even going to address this argument, because it's in bad faith. I'm willing to talk about this, but again, not in bad faith. Not when it's being used as a distraction.
What about his people? How about them? Like, they want justice too, right? So the police are trying to go there to get justice, to get this guy. You on the couch, you got a gun, it's dangerous, they're ready for it, and then you die.
And that's okay?
It's unfortunate that it happened.
So he's saying it's okay.
But see, you put yourself in a bad situation.
This is victim blaming. What he's doing. This is victim blaming. Being near someone who's a criminal. We don't know what Amir Locke knew and what he didn't. Being near somebody who's a criminal should get you killed. And that would be unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. That's what he's basically saying.
Makai Speed put you in the bad situation. Makai Speed made that spot hot. You didn't kill somebody. You living right there. They're going to come right there. They know where you stay. They know where your mama stay. They know where your brother stay. So now you got to deal with it.
Notice none of this justifies what the police has actually done.
The no-knock warrant was, without no pun intended, it was warranted. It was correct. It wasn't.
It was illegal. But he doesn't know that because he goes into this on the state's side. He's always on the state's side.
It was right. Some say there shouldn't be any no-knock warrants, but why? You got a killer on the loose, and if you try to go get him just by knocking gingerly, and he shoots through the door and kills some officers and gets away.
Do you realize this is an insanely rare instance that this happens? You have a high... Delivery drivers have a higher fatality rate than police officers. This is an extremely rare case. Again, and Micaiah Speed, he was caught outside of the no-knock warrant. All the no-knock warrant did was kill Amir Locke, and that's it. They got nothing out of it, showing it was not warranted, it was not needed, and it was done illegally. So I jump ahead a little bit because he gives, again, one of these extremely rare instances where the police knocked on the door and got shot. Again, going with leftist logic, where if it's, as long as it saves a life, fuck your rights. Okay. So.
People do crazy things. That's why you got to have no-knock warrants. Catch them off guard so they can't get their positions ready, can't get their guns ready, can't go in there and...
So his argument now is ends justify the means. Yeah, you have a Second and Fourth Amendment right, but the ends justify the means, so we throw it out. So he doesn't believe in he doesn't believe in rights, basically. He goes, well, in this circumstance, the state can just run them over.
Kill people, and if they got evidence of some things in their computer that they shouldn't have, they can't be deleting stuff and getting rid of the evidence because...
I'm sorry, but that could happen in a free society. It's called dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. If you have to knock, or you try to catch them like that, but there are other ways to catch them. You can catch them outside and get search warrants, okay? I've known cops. And then go to the house. There are other ways to do this. He wants this way, which again... is a violation. Not to mention, again, notice he says, well, they could be covering stuff up in the house. He never asks, well, there could be innocent people in the house. There could be children in the house. There could be women in the house. Maybe the woman grabs the gun because she doesn't know what's going on and she gets killed and goes, well, we got the criminal, so any collateral damage, that's completely fine and justified. It's unfortunate, but don't hang around criminals, assuming that the person in there would know that person was engaging in illegal activity. Again, his logic basically is, as long as it saves a life or we get the conviction we need, you're the one who's always calling other people feds, but you think like a fed. As long as we get the conviction, who gives a shit about the context or the method, as long as we get the conviction.
Because now you get kids in danger that could be somewhere else. People that could be right there are in danger.
Exactly. The innocent people in the house that could be shot. So, again, doesn't make sense.
That's why you have no-knock warrants. They're given for a reason. They don't just give them out randomly or haphazardly. They do it.
Clearly they do, because innocent people keep dying from no-knock warrants, so they are giving them out, like, haphazardly.
For a particular reason, and in this case, it was warranted.
It ended in the death of an innocent person, and they caught the guy outside, but he says it was warranted. Oh my god. How do you have a 1776 flag back there, bro? Oh my god. God, this dude would be licking the king's boots so hard. Oh my god, this dude would be at the fucking docks giving the British soldiers hand jobs. He would actually be calling the colonists, the revolutionaries, he would be calling them terrorists. I hope you know this, right? If he lived in the 1700s, he would be calling the American patriots the terrorists.
So it's unfortunate that Amir Locke lost his life, but let it be a lesson. If you don't want to be in that kind of situation.
Victim blaming, again. But notice how he's building this case against Amir Locke where he has no evidence. He has no evidence for what Amir Locke knew and what he didn't know, but he's building a case against him off of all speculation. And this is my problem with the right. That they do this. But they only do it with a certain color of people, like I've been saying, because I didn't see this magnifying glass when the police shot other people. I didn't see people digging through Hunter Britton's background. I didn't see people digging through Johnny Hurley's background. I didn't see people digging through Daniel Shaver's background. I'm just saying, I notice it's a specific group that they tend to try to build their case against.
You're not necessarily active in the crime. Don't be around criminals.
So that warrants your death.
Okay, like if you're living in a dope house and a dope house gets raided, hey man, now you're in a bad situation.
If somebody was in the dope house, I like how you wouldn't ask why are they living in the dope house. I think that would be my first question.
Whether it
So I have to show you this part because this is the part that's amazing.
be the police, whether it be people that don't like my cousin or my cousin's brother, or or the girl, whoever, or even me, because Amir Locke might have been involved in some crime himself. I don't know that for certain.
Again, putting that in your head. He's trying to make the victim the villain and the state the hero. Again, where was this for any of the people I mentioned? Did anybody on the right question Kyle Rittenhouse when people were saying, I think he wanted to go out there and shoot people? Did anybody on the right say, I think Kyle Rittenhouse just went and wanted to go out there and shoot people? I don't know that, but it looks like he did. I didn't see any of you saying that. Interesting who you picked and choose to say these types of things about. Anyway, I just want to point this out because his audience was receptive to it, whereas Tatum's audience wasn't, so I didn't think it was warranted. And I cannot see if this is going to be mainstream conservatism, because he is basically in mainstream conservatism. This is not pro-America conservatism. This is the exact opposite. This is right-wing authoritarianism. And if you want to keep trying to justify Amir Locke, you're going to have to explain to me how you are pro-rights and pro-Bill of Rights and pro-America, because I don't see how you can hold these two positions.